We have Rob DeMillo, who is the CTO of Revision 3. We have Colleen Strimbu, who is the president and CEO of Trip TV, and Tony Walt from the 3D motion design team at Effective UI, which has put together a very cool site for the Blue Angels, among other things. So let's kick things off with Rob from Revision 3.
Hi, everybody. This is the Cranky Implementers panel, so well, welcome to HTML5. For those who haven't heard about Revision 3, I'm just going to give a real quick overview and walk through what it is that we exactly do. Revision 3 is an online television company. We call ourselves IPTV. We do HD quality broadcasts of shows that we produce ourselves. We've got about 20 to 25 shows on the slate. About a third of our shows are produced in-house. We've got a full-blown television studio. And the rest of them are out in the field. We've got producers scattered all around the United States. In some cases, we've got them in Canada. We take those shows in weekly or bi-weekly or 3 times a week sometimes. And depending on the relationship that we have with those producers, we edit the shows down. And we push them out through our channels with attached advertising. And the monetization scheme that we use is entirely advertising. So we have both pre-rolls, we've got display ads sometimes on the way things get presented, as well as talent-read in-video ads. The mantra of the company really is put the video anywhere, right? So if it has a screen, it can play anything that comes off of Revision 3 until the iPad came along. So when the iPad came along and the jihad against Flash started, Revision 3 content was really not available on that device. We scrambled very quickly. We put together an HTML5 player that presents our views inside of the iPad, but it's sort of a crippled down player. It doesn't do everything that our Flash player can do. And I'm going to get to all that in a minute and what we've done to correct that. So we started in 2005, and our reliance on Flash started roughly around the same time. We went live with a basic player at revision3.com, and videos were simply distributed by RSS. So you would have ways of grabbing our videos through RSS feeds and displaying them yourselves. In 2007, they expanded it to include a full-blown Flash player. So you would go to the revision3.com website and be presented with a Flash player. It was very basic stuff, but it actually worked pretty well. 2008, that player was actually revamped. It became more and more sophisticated. We started making use of large-scale CDNs to push out the information to remote areas of the world. We made use of some hooks inside of Adobe Flash for ads, ad insertion, as well as tracking of our videos. 2009, we revamped it again. We put an entire CMS system in place, which allowed us to do a lot of things in an automated, more efficient fashion. And that's where we are today, essentially. That player gets loaded and instantiated. And I'm going to see if I can kick out of this briefly. If I go over here. Well, oh, good. All right. So this gives you some idea of not only our content, but how it gets presented to the user. Film Ride is one of our shows. You see the Flash player instantiating down below here, along with a pre-roll ad. Yeah, this ad is no control over the ad that shows up. So Film Ride is externally produced. It's a group of folks down in Florida that make this on a weekly basis. They've got a Monday show that is also available through our scenes, and they have a what they do is they create movie effects, movie editing techniques, videos, that sort of thing, and explain how they do it to a pretty rabid user base, actually, that wants to understand how to make films themselves. And you caught us in the middle of October, so they've got their Bloodtober special here, which means a lot of people get...
Young of NSFW fame. Yes, sir. I was just in the neighborhood. Hold on.
If we let the video play, you'll see the guy on the couch get
Why
asked.
are you here? Wow.
Anyway, so
No, you don't
the Flash player that's running right now allows us to do a lot of different controls. We can move to different segments. The CMS system allows the user to see what segment is playing. If they want to jump to the position, that's fairly easy to do. We can, there's the plug for it. We can take a look at other videos that we're playing on the site, specifically for this show, move to them, do whatever it is that we need to do. So that's what we had. That's what the iPad is making us move away from. And so now we talk about our new little position here. So the iPad came out, critical success, commercial success, obviously. And famously didn't support Flash players. So that put us in a bind, right? We had an issue where we were literally just ignoring the iPad until the summer of 2010, when we put out a very quick HTML5 player. That player is still running right now on the iPads. If you go to revision3.com site, videos that show up come through that HTML5 player, but there are issues with it. You can't do the segments, you can't we can't get the ad tags in there in a completely acceptable fashion. Viewers were demanding a better solution. So that was where we were. So at the beginning of this year, we were faced with a choice. The choice was take Revision 3's engineering team, which is scrappy but small, and have them improve the Flash player, add additional features that the sales team was requiring and that our users were requiring, or we could take those same people and put them on an HTML5 player and try and get an HTML5 player that came up to parity with what we had for the Flash. So we decided to do that, basically. We did not retire the Flash player. We aren't retiring the Flash player. It will be in the background, but no further development will be done on it. We are currently in the process of putting together an HTML5 player to roll out to the site, which I was hoping would be done by this conference. We ran into a couple problems about 2 weeks ago that we're trying to work out, and we've rescheduled our launch to mid-November. The obstacles with getting HTML5 and video to play nicely are represented in that chart down there. I'm not sure if you can actually see what's going on, but every browser has different requirements from its HTML5 player. And a lot of those requirements have to do with video codecs that that browser will allow to be supported. Now, Revision 3 had just gone through this exercise that took us about 8 months to reduce the number of codecs that we're supporting. So we got our codecs whittled down nice and neatly to a package of codecs that would run on all the different devices that we support, and then now we've got this. So we are going back through and re-encoding our video library for TheorusOGG as well as WebM to cover the Firefox crowd. But so we're doing that right now, and can we roll this out? So again, we decided to construct a relevant, future-facing HTML5 player, one that we can incorporate new changes into fairly quickly, leave our Flash on hold, and then allow the web server to determine, based on the browser of the user coming in, whether it can support HTML5 or not, put that forward, and allow the user to move backwards to the Flash player if they're not having a satisfactory HTML5 experience. So again, we're in the final testing phase. It's going to get rolled out mid-November. I'm going to show you what it currently looks like. It's running off our production machine right now, so you can get some idea of how far along we've come and how close to parity it was with the Flash player. And aside from the Swiss cheese nature of the video codec matrix that you saw, some of the other issues that we've had to do with the fact that the majority of ad servers out there currently don't have ad tags that support HTML5. We are fortunate that we have a very understanding ad partner, and they have quickly put together an HTML5 ad tag library for us. We have the same problem with a lot of the analytics companies that we're using to track our video plays. They're also doing work to provide us with tags that make some sense. There were some issues with JavaScript, just in general, getting JavaScript to play nicely with HTML5. One of the issues that has kept us from launching prior to this conference is that Chrome keeps crashing. Not every version of Chrome, just some versions of Chrome. So anyone that's telling you HTML5 is a panacea just hasn't played around with HTML5 long enough for that to happen. But one of our biggest stumbling blocks is that we have something like 25,000 hours, 30,000 hours worth of video sitting in our backlog that we have to re-encode. That re-encode process is going on as we're sitting here talking about it. And all that data is getting put up onto our CDNs and being made available to the HTML players when they come out. So let me just very quickly give you some idea of what HTML player looks like. So this is, again, coming off our development machine, so if it hangs up or falls down, sorry about that. Again, you see the video ad. This is not attached to the actual video. This is our system in the back end that's putting a pre-roll in front of the video that you're about to see. And kicks right into the video. You'll notice, first of all, it's faster than the Flash player, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that we don't have as many tags in the player as we do in the HTML5 player. I'm sorry, as we do in the Flash player. If I put my mouse over here, you see we still have all of the controls that we had in the Flash world. So these are other videos available on our site. And this is one trick that we're pretty happy with. HTML5 on its own does not perform screen takeover, which was also a large problem for us. So we faked it fairly effectively. Essentially, we compute the size of the screen that's taking a look at the HTML5 video, and we make a browser frame that's bigger than the screen. And then we expand the video to that. And it works fairly well. It works on tablets, it works on phones, and all that other good stuff. If I go back, what else we got? So there you go. You can see the way it works. That's it. There we go. That's us.
What, for your content, is the lack of content protection capabilities in HTML5 video a problem?
No, not at all. We don't do any DRM whatsoever. That's part of the business model of the company. So, if you go to our site, see the videos, share them with your friends, you're fine. And because we didn't have any DRM issues, we don't have a lot of the DRM stumbling blocks that some of the other HTML5 player companies are currently experiencing.
The questions for Rob.
So far back. Just a minor one. I really couldn't read your matrix. I was just curious to know why. I believe Firefox supports WebM, so I was kind of surprised to hear you going through that huge library of content to do OGG.
Because we had to still go through our huge library of content to support WebM too. So we had narrowed our codecs down really to the H264 family, with some exceptions. We had WMV in there as well, some different types of flavorings of MP4s. But prior to that whittling down, we were covering something like 17 or 18 different codecs, which was just impeding our workflow. Every show that comes through, we've got to encode it to all those formats and different screen sizes and all that stuff, so we just want to shrink it down. So we got done shrinking it down, and then we realized, okay, we have to go back and re-encode all this stuff. So for Firefox, yes, it is going to be supported in WebM. One of the things that you didn't see, I think, probably on one of my slides was we were having some issues with WebM, and we're not really sure why. So we encoded about 5% of our videos in WebM, and out of that 5%, there was a collection of them that actually weren't playing inside of the Firefox viewer. Not sure what that's all about. OGG played perfectly every time, so we were doing double encode.
Hello, I'm John.
Hi, John.
The product manager for WebM and Google Chrome Videos.
I know. We love WebM.
Talk to me afterwards. I really want to know more about the problems you're having with Chrome
Absolutely.
and WebM. And
so do we, so it's good.
I can report that full screen is now in Chrome stable channel, so
Good.
that'll begin.
Perfect.
Firefox, yeah, the 3.6, Firefox 4 and later includes WebM, but it also includes an auto update feature. So if you look at the browser, penetration patterns, you'll see everybody moving from 4 to 6 to 7 in these nice even patterns. 3.6 doesn't have that. So there are a lot of people out there still stuck on 3.6, and I know I talk to the Mozilla guys a lot. They're trying very hard to get those people to move. But anyway, I certainly
let's hook up afterwards.
I'd
love to find out
afterwards, and also find out who's doing your encoding to
Sure.
WebM, so we can talk to them as well.
Absolutely.
So earlier you briefly mentioned you had an issue with tags from ad servers. Can you clarify?
Yeah, they don't support them. So what's going on is a lot of ad servers have spent their time creating tags for Flash players and different technologies, and no one really paid attention to HTML5. So it's not that there's any technical reason why ad servers can't create tags to support HTML5. They simply haven't done it. So we've got a specific set of ad partners that we're using, that we're very happy with, that we've kept with through the years, and we've been working with them over the last few months to become essentially their first ad tag inside of HTML5 players.
How did the question of VAST tags ever come up? Are you talking about
yeah.
tags or
No, ad tags.
ad tags?
Ad tags, yeah.
No other questions for Rob? All right, next up, Colleen Strimbu from Trip TV.
To your seat.
She's no idea.
She's
Great. You hear me okay? Yes. Great. I'm going to take you down a little bit of a different path here. Trip TV is an organization that works with aggregation and distribution of travel-related content. So essentially, we're the company that's working with Expedia, Travelocity to get rid of 360-degree virtual tours from photo stitching and move them into the world of video. The travel industry has been gloriously and painfully behind the rest of the universe in integrating new technologies, and video has been no exception. If you've all seen a video player, there's no need to demo because we are a middleman in all of this. If you've seen a video player with anything in it, that's pretty much what we do. So I'm going to walk you through the case study and what we are up against, because what we do is a little bit different because we're not a landing page. I'm just going to start off with that. So we do aggregate, as I mentioned. We distribute content, meaning we push that content to our partner site. So Apple Vacations is taking content and embedding it on their pages and sharing it with their travel agency network. We're hosting it on Brightcove on our side. We're kind of a best-of-breed integration channel, so we're not doing any custom development on our side. We do Omniture for our analytics, and then OpenX, believe it or not, for our ad serving, because our company is small enough that we don't serve enough videos to compete with the TV organizations yet on what their minimum requirements are. So a lot of integration going on in the back end for that. Anyway, we take that content in and push it out to that one single channel. We also have a library that people can come in, select the content that they want, and then take a copy of their embed code and go put it on their site. Lots of moving parts that all go from an integration standpoint. So to put it in a better frame here, we kind of sit in the middle of all of these things. We produce content. We do pull the content in from other producers and other networks if they already have content. We syndicate that content out, and typically when you hear about distributing content, you're pushing content to a social channel. So it's a YouTube, a Vimeo, or something like that. We go a little bit beyond that, and we push content out to Condé Nast Traveler, or we push it out through the News Distribution Network, which pushes all of this content out to Reuters, Associated Press, a bunch of different channels. The key point in all of those channels is that once that video goes out via RSS feed, we lose the player. Because obviously USA Today won't let me control their player. I don't know why, I keep asking, and nope. So what that means essentially is that I'm going to take you to the consumer side of this. The consumer to me is both my client, being Apple Vacations or Expedia, down to the actual excursion company or the consumer who's shopping around for a travel destination or an excursion. They are expecting this to take place because the travel industry is so far behind music, news, movies, television, and they're waiting for this experience to take place. So because my market is new and nobody's using video, HTML5 was kind of a gift to us, sort of, kind of, because it wasn't there and all of a sudden there was a mobile solution and it was glory and hallelujah, it was great, except for the fact that functionality was lost and consumers were still expecting the same experience from one page when they went to another. So lots of communication breakdown there, and I've got about 3 different customers going down the chain, from the news channels to our clients, and then the consumer on the back end. So it's a very different experience as far as HTML5 is concerned for us. Obviously, my consumer is any number of people working on a browser, and they're expecting the same visual presentation that they get from one site to the next. If I can share on one, he's throwing things over here. If I can share something to Facebook on one channel, how come I can't on another? If I can scroll through tab presentations at the top of one screen, why is it not available in another channel? And our customers are expecting that same presentation over and over again. So depending on where we're putting content, where we're distributing content, and certainly where we're syndicating content, we're losing a lot in the translation of where those videos are going and where they're being displayed on behalf of our customer. So mobile having a solution through HTML5 is great, and thank goodness. I'm really grateful for Brightcove. Specifically, they've been doing a lot of development on the back end to at least keep us going in that right direction, so we can counsel our customers to choose the right platform and the right player before they start embedding content on their website. So, and just as I was mentioning earlier, we are hosting this content on 10 Best to research an excursion. Obviously, this is a standard Brightcove player. It has all the standard functionality on it. But when we get to a place like the Chicago Sun-Times, the functionality is then gone and diminished because they're on a completely different platform. So visual experience is very, very rough for us to maintain and also to communicate. So as far as obstacles are going in, and I know these were case studies that we're supposed to manage on our end, is what player features are supported. When we're going into a customer, because we're a B2B, but we're also managing that relationship, counseling them on which player to choose on which page of their website so that it translates down is very important. What we didn't realize is that when you give them a full scope player, like if you're going to Expedia and you want to see every video in Cancun possible broken down by label or by tag, if they want that home screen to be delivered to mobile, they have to have a single video player with a monstrously large playlist. These are business decisions that they're having to make by virtue of this technology not quite creeping up to where they need to be. It also means that they have to have more real estate on those landing pages that are higher in search, so that they can narrow that view a little bit to provide the content that customer is looking for all the way down to a mobile device. As far as when we use Flash versus HTML, that's really a customer call on our part. What they want is what we deliver, and it's what we offer. We're really trying to keep up with the functionality changes and what increases. I'm not a CTO, so I can't speak as well to the integration, but I do know that the selection process and what they're doing, what they're choosing is absolutely integral to the customer experience, and we get a lot of grief when it does not work. And not being the developer of any of that technology really matters. So we have support issues that are related to this on the back side. On the consumer side, they think something's broken. So just as an example, I'm sure everybody has seen the standard tag bar, but this is one of the ones that we sent out to Apple Vacations recently that allowed multiple things. And one of the major things that we're losing with HTML5 is also branding. A lot of distribution for these partners is to drive people back to their website. That's one of our points of differentiation in what we provide them as a marketing mechanism. They do lose that in the translation, which is rough. Obviously, the listing functionality is done, and also the tab features. So the basic functionality of it is rough for us, and once those advanced features can keep up and can be delivered down to a mobile function, that would be hugely beneficial. This is a standard one that has come up multiple times. And what we didn't collect, which I'm sure you've seen before, is that the share features on the top player, which if you scrolled over, it would still be there. This is the experience when you're trying to sell something on Expedia and convert a sale is different. People aren't able to shop, search, or manage their experience, which is one of the major benefits video provides on a consumer level. What we're hoping to do as a translation of this is to add hooks into booking engines, things where people can research and get into more information on the website through data if there's no way to get them just as much as they need through the player itself. Also, prominence is also big in the travel marketplace. They need to put these players, specifically when they're simple, front and center on every single web page that they can, even if it's a pop-up window, just to make sure that function is carried down to the consumer experience. So at this point, I don't know if there's a solution in anything that we're doing other than maintaining a consistent communication mechanism with our customers and recommendations of what the best possible use of that video is to increase their sales. We use HTML5 when we can, and Flash all other times until there's enough support in the delivery system to allow us to handle that. So obviously you all know, you're way beyond me in technology, you know the comparison between the two. So that our market is a little bit different because we are point to point and we push content out to multiple channels and we're not a landing page. So our focus with our content is the consumer experience, really truly on the purchasing level, and what we need to do to deliver this video to them in a seamless and consistent format. So that's what we do.
Questions or comments for Colleen? No?
He's got a cool one anyway, go ahead.
Well, then let's move on to Tony, and we'll have more questions after Tony's presentation.
Just take a second here to get set up. There it goes. So I'm Tony Walt. I'm the Director of 3D Motion Design and Effective UI. My team's responsible for the planning, creation, and implementation of media across Effective UI's projects. If you're going to tweet at Tony J. Walt and just use hashtag Effective UI. So Effective UI is a user experience agency. We build applications with a focus on the user, enhancing their emotional engagement with companies and their brands. So for this, we're going to be talking about the Blue Angels, who we got to work with recently. For anyone who's not familiar with them, the Blue Angels are a flying aerobatic team. They were established in 1946 with the mission to enhance the Navy and Marine Corps recruiting and to incredibly represent the Navy and Marine Corps aviation. So their goal is to inspire potential recruits, fellow service members, and the American taxpayer. And they do it primarily through these flight demonstrations that garner up to 14 million spectators each year. At these air shows, they'll fly the jets as low as 50 feet off the ground. They'll get wingtip to canopy separation of only 18 inches. The solo jets will fly so fast that they approach the speed of sound. In one of the maneuvers in particular, they'll pull 7 Gs. So the reason why all this is important is that they really want to get the user excited, the viewer excited at the air show. And as a contrast, their website, while informative, it just really failed to bring about the same kind of emotional response that their air show did. And so Microsoft saw that, and they partnered with my company, Effective UI, to build a better site that would take the excitement of the air show beyond its physical location to a broader internet audience, and also would enhance that experience, offering things they couldn't get at the show itself. So we used HTML5, and the primary use of that was on the home page. So let's take a look at that now.
We're clear for takeoff. Webster 32005. That's the headline.
So I'm going to cut it off there. I'll show again more later. But essentially what you're seeing there is an animated user interface that's done with CSS3 transforms and JavaScript, custom preloader and audio widget that are done with Canvas and JavaScript, and then a separate audio and video that are done with the audio and video tags. We kept them separate because the playback lengths are different. And the main reason why we did this was, again, that emotional engagement. We wanted to get people excited right off the bat when they got to the site, and that's really going to affect the way they consume the rest of the site as they go through. We also wanted this page to tie into the feature pages, like inside the demo and the aircraft pages. Those pages are done in Silverlight because we wanted to take advantage of adaptive streaming using IIS. Also, those pages are destination pages in the site. Users are going there specifically to consume that, that content. while this homepage is an entry page. So people are coming in here for all different reasons, and we didn't want them to have any sort of plugins to consume this content. Of course, in choosing HTML5, we had a lot of challenges along the way. The first challenge is the non-HTML5 browsers in mobile. So non-HTML5 browsers, clearly we couldn't just serve the video and audio on those tags. And then for mobile users, with the devices supporting various resolutions and profiles, and then the way they handle video, many of them have to be user initiated and they play in the native player as opposed to inline. Bandwidth and data plans were also a consideration for mobile users. And for background video, we just didn't feel like it would be appropriate to serve a baseline 12 megabyte file to serve as background. So we used progressive enhancement and we served a baseline experience. So what you're seeing there is the baseline experience. There's no audio widget and they just get an image. And then if we detected the proper settings, we would then inject the media. Of course, that also caused a problem. So what you're seeing here is some inconsistent playback. We would inject the video tag via JavaScript and we would get stuttering and ripping in our video. So what we discovered was if we had the video tag already on the page and then we either populated it or removed it once we detected the user's setup, playback got a lot more consistent. We also had inconsistencies on the animations. So here you can see the CSS3 transforms were handled differently, there it goes, with the different browsers. And so we just had to test in all the browsers to ensure that the animation played well in all of them. Encoding, you've probably seen this one a lot today. Video formats, WebM, OGV, and MP4. The audio formats, MP3 and OGG. And then the encoders, the top two were different ones that we were trying out for the H.264 MP4. And then the bottom two were ones that we were using for the WebM and the OGV files. You'll notice WAV was not among the audio formats. It was 5.5 megs bigger, and it didn't really seem to be necessary for our audience. And the MP4, since we weren't supporting mobile, we were able to go with the high profile, so that took us from a 12 megabyte file down to about a 6 megabyte file, which was really important because we wanted the video to load as quickly as possible so that people would get that before they move on to another page in the site. Another issue with video ripping. You'll notice the ticks on the navigation are ripping the video. Whenever you would animate over any of the buttons in the main nav, we have those ticks animated, similar to the way the ticks on the left and right side are animated going up and down. So to get around that, we wound up just disabling them until the video was done playing. We believe it has to do with the shadowing on the ticks and it just being too complex of a redraw when laid over top of the video. Another issue we had, building for beta. IE9, Firefox 3.5 was released at the beginning, and then Firefox 3.6 towards the end of the site build out. IE9 presented a lot of problems when we were working with the developer preview. Things that would work one day would not work 2 days later, and we couldn't tell if it was our problem or if it was something that changed in IE9. As they solidified the browser, things got a lot smoother there. Firefox 3.5, however, caused a lot of headaches. We had a lot of issues with the event model, and that was one of the worst offenders for us. So things like the ended event didn't seem to fire unless the media element was looping, and the progress events weren't firing the same across the browsers. So we actually used a library called Video.js. Steve was here earlier talking about that library. To unify the event model, to give us something that was consistent between all the browsers so that we could control how the video is going to play. The one issue we had there is that our video was atypical. Instead of playing in the foreground, it plays in the background. It's not user initiated, so we had to suppress the play controls and get the video to play how we wanted it to play. So when all was said and done, this was the final product.
Solos, we're clear for takeoff. Solos, ready to rock. We're clear for takeoff. Western 3205. That's a headline. Ready. set up the Delta roll, lost 5-2. You got 6 lost. Over MFR 16 was fired up over the lake.
So when all was said and done, we couldn't get all of the analytics because the previous site didn't really have much in the way of analytics, but going through IIS logs, we were told that site visitors more than doubled, and then the time on the site went through the roof because of all the media that people were consuming on the site. My slides are available on SlideShare, so if you take a snap of that QR tag, that'll direct you to those. And that's all.
Questions for Tony?
Two questions for you, actually. First off, on the JavaScript side, all of you have expressed a significant number of challenges dealing with JavaScript. Did you find that things like jQuery, JQTouch, and then Event.js provided some stability and platform agnosticism, or did you need to hand roll your own? And then the second question that I'd be interested in is what QC process, automated QC process, was developed to validate the site as you went through iterations to ensure you didn't regress in any type of functionality?
So I guess I'll start on mine. So we actually, Video.js was the library we used, kind of similar to jQuery in the fact that it gave us a stable environment to work with for our JavaScript. If you have any questions, Steve is right there. And then also, in regards to testing, we had a whole myriad of testers that were continually doing QA on our browser matrix to ensure that things that were changed in one place wouldn't regress somewhere else.
Similarly, we use Video.js as well, and it got around some initial problems that we had with JavaScript. As far as testing goes, we had a piece of software named Stephanie, another piece of software named Evan, and so they made sure that we could regress.
I got nothing. Sorry.
Yeah, hi. I guess it's a question or a comment for Tony. Looking at that Blue Angel site, I gotta tell you, I found it a little bit depressing. Not the site itself, I mean, I think it's fantastic, but you're using 4 encoders, you're having to test, every single browser, the CSS is inconsistent, etc. It seems like kind of a use case for why HTML5 is not ready. Why did you guys go HTML5 on that one? It just seems like a lot of work, and probably a lot of money, and it's going to be a lot of work and money to update the site and change things.
Well, first of all, in regards to the encoder, I listed those 4 primarily just to show people some of the variety. In general, we stick to XMedia Recode for our WebIm and OGG encodes, and we use, it really just depends upon how we're feeling that day for the H.264. We bounce between a few, but Handbrake's actually been our favorite. So really you can get away with only a couple encoders, at least as far as we know. We could have done more of the site in HTML5 than we did, and truth be told, we really liked using HTML5 for the accessibility reasons. I mean, it's a government site, so it's absolutely essential that things be accessible. So it provided us that. There's a lot of accessibility built into the site that you just don't see watching the video. Semantics was a huge thing for us too, and Silverlight, would cause problems there.
So who made the decision to go HTML5 in the beginning? Who was the one who said?
Microsoft actually told us that they, so we started off actually building a lot of the site in Silverlight. We were working with Microsoft and one of their Silverlight evangelists, so obviously that's kind of where we started with our headspace. And then we started talking to them about implementation and accessibility, and that's when HTML itself came into the picture. So then it was Silverlight and HTML. And as we got further into the site, we saw that we really wanted something to just bring people in at the beginning, because initially it was just a static homepage, and we felt that was a perfect opportunity to start playing with the HTML5 chops and see what we can do there to really create a cool experience. And since it is an entry page and people aren't going there specifically to consume that content, we felt HTML5 would be a good way to go. Then they don't have to be prompted with any sort of plugin or anything.
Okay, thanks.
I've got a question about the travel video.
Oh, sure. Yeah, regarding the travel video in B2B, if you step back and abstract it as B2B video distribution to from a number of people to a completely different group of people, and you're the facilitator of that. How do you manage, can you talk a little bit more detail about how you manage expectations in particular when it leaves your player environment and it's a raw, lack of a better term, a raw file that is being delivered on somebody else's platform? I think you had the Chicago Sun-Times up there, the Trib. And how do it moves from your Bright Cove safety zone of delivery into a completely unknown safety zone of delivery, the expectations back to that content owner that you're facilitating, metrics, quality, feedback, all that, how does that happen?
Two different things. Number one, there's a lot of paperwork because we have to make sure that we have rights to that content to push it out there to begin with. So there's a lot of I agrees in terms of I own all of this out of the gate, because our value proposition to the marketplace is that we're increasing reach and incremental viewership to an audience that's been stuck in Travelocity land for a long time. So getting that content to be pushed out there is what we want. But what that means also is that we have to send it only to channels that share data back with us on some level. So we've had to not go directly to a USA Today. We've got to go through a company called News Distribution Network that is the rich media channel to all of them and tracks all their plays, and then do an API integration on the backside so that it comes up in our reports. It's pretty laborious, I'll be honest. Lots of hands-on trying to figure out what is falling through the cracks on that to be able to take it one step further, because we're ad wrapping it in a multitude of destinations or leasing the content, and we have to do it by tracking plays on a fundamental level. I mean, that's not getting into the details of geography and anything else where you're trying to target those ads. We're just trying to go off of just basic viewership and grow after that. So it's a logistics nightmare. That's the truth. Yeah. Did I answer all your questions? I'm sorry. Did I cover it all almost?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It seems like it's a problem that a lot of people have to, the delivery of whether you're talking about travel content or other kinds of specialized content, seems to be quite a problem to solve.
We're in the process of just launching a portal application that takes kind of a self-service application to build a player, but also integrating all of the analytics, the ad posting kind of in a Google AdSense model, but making it self-service on behalf of that customer because of that issue. Having to manage all of that internally and allowing someone else to do it, and then creating the channels so it can be automated a little bit better, will serve to be easier, but it should be something that can be expanded to other verticals outside of travel. I haven't seen anybody doing exactly this. I mean, there's a lot of people driving people to their website specifically, but taking the content and distributing it to multiple networks beyond social media, if someone knows of anybody else doing it, I haven't seen it. Thank goodness we're only in travel. Yeah.
That answered some of it.
Yeah, I was John Sorensen from Sports School, where we have a VOD channel, and we're increasingly getting into over-the-top applications. And I came in feeling like HTML5 was very, was going to be helpful for us in trying to tackle all of the different platforms and things. And it's just, I think I'm coming out of this a little bit more wary and worried. For us, some of the issues are we're creating subscription applications, and we're using Brightcode as well for a lot of our renditions. And I think I was trying to push past Flash, and not doing a lot of Flash renditions, but now I just I need Brightcode to supply even more renditions, because I still have to continue supporting it.
The worst thing for me, doing what we do, which is not specifically a technology drive, because we do use development partners is that it's really hard to get questions answered that aren't technology driven. I get it. I understand the fundamentals of the coding part, although I can't do it, but I've got people calling me, so can you give me more information about the process, the time period of where are we going with specific players? Because sometimes an HTML5 player is really, really applicable on a single player site. Can you just tell me that? Because I've had to learn a lot of the lessons about best practices for delivery on the consumer side by accident. So that's been a little difficult. I think that if it weren't so much a technology initiative and a little bit more, or if someone could just tell me what the consumer ramifications of it were, we could deploy best practices sooner.
Follow-up question.
So given all of the challenges that you experienced, what were the most useful support channels that you reached out to during the development process? Did you find that the browser community or online social community supported you, or was it more in-house kind of try this, try that, and work our way through it?
There is a vibrant HTML5 development community. I mean, there are a lot of them in this building, actually. So reaching out to those folks was very, very helpful. A lot of our issues revolved around making sure that our partner companies had the appropriate tech from us and vice versa in order for the HTML5 player to work. We also employed a contracting house that was familiar with HTML5 to assist us for the majority of the process. So it was a combination of things. We never reached out through social nets, but we did reach out through development and community forums. That kind of stuff always proved to be helpful. When we hit something that we thought was a roadblock that was potentially an industry-wide roadblock, we confirmed that and then wrote around it, essentially, to continue to move forward. And HTML5 development itself is moving so quickly that problems were actually getting solved while we were trying to solve them. So there was some of that occurred as well.
And on our team, we have a lot of really talented developers and just people stabbing at it, but also HTML, and I may have these wrong, so forgive me, but I think it's HTML for everybody or HTML5 for everybody, and dive into HTML, were two sites that we used for information.
That's an excellent site.
Looking at the spec itself to see what information's there, and then, yeah, just kind of hitting it. And actually, there was some information just looking at what was going into the video.js as to how they were doing things, how we might be able to learn from that.
Brightcove has, I don't know if this would be of help at all, but they have videos on their site that are open to anybody on HTML5 and the implications of a video play on the internet, which I did watch. I also went to the HTML5 for everybody, but truly it was message boards and all those sites where someone could actually tell me what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for development. I was looking for application. What can it do? What can it not do? And where's it been applied that I can see it outside of where we're at, because I'm kind of asset manager autonomous right now, and I want to see what my options are. So.
This is maybe a more specific technological question, but for iOS applications, for trying to figure out kind of what the best practices are for including your social linking and embed codes and things like that that are getting stripped out of the HTML player, what are you doing in terms of recommendations for web design? For example, we have a separate project where we're trying to create a kind of an HTML5 site that plays across as many platforms as possible, and not really have a lot of different mobile versions for different platforms. And our simplistic one is just a hard embed encodes for Facebook likes and Twitter in the web page below where the player would appear, because all of our links that are attached to the Brightcove player are getting stripped out. Do you have any other kind of approaches or recommendations for how you're struggling with that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just going to jump in there real quick. Can I?
Here, be right.
I think, yeah.
While he's playing with that, do you control your content? Is it your content?
Yeah, it's
Put it in as a graphical overlay, so it's disseminated. If you don't control the HTML, which we don't primarily, we wrap everything into something so if it's shared, at least it doesn't go away.
It's also just dealing with the analytics that it gets it's
Keep talking.
Well, it is a solution, but one of the worst things about us is that we don't ever control the HTML ever.
Right.
Therefore, I can't do that, which means if I don't put it somewhere in the player or somewhere in the graphics, I got.
Right. I'm only able to do it because it's a new project for a new site. Yeah, exactly.
And maybe he's got it better.
Yeah. So our motivation for going forward here was very similar to yours. iOS was sort of dragging us kicking and screaming into HTML5, and we really did want to keep was showing us the bright new path of HTML5 going forward. And we really did want to keep everything as simple as possible development workflow-wise, because we do have a small shop. So the original motivation was, look, just want HTML5 to kill everything and go from there. And it almost sort of worked out that way. Our HTML5 player will play on iOS 5, it'll play on Android, it'll play on Google TV, it'll play on this thing once it reboots, it will play on that thing. So it actually did hit that. In order to deal with the social aspects of it, the embed codes and everything else, we have, sorry, yeah, I know. Did I actually not? Am I out?
Yeah.
Oh, for God's sakes. Oh, look, there I am, Daisy. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I won't show you. Anyway, so when the thing's playing, what will happen is if you mouse over the window, you will see a group of discrete controls. And those controls will do things for you, like present you with an embed code that you can then pass to someone else. It will allow sort of what has become the traditional sharing icon to show up, and you click on that and share with Twitter or G+ or anything that you're particularly interested in. The embed codes will be fine inside of a Facebook page. It'll be fine inside of your personal website, whatever. So it's we didn't change the concept. We just changed the way those concepts are presented to the user that are making use of the player.
So how are you producing those through Java or?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
I think it's funny to note that Brightcove doesn't use HTML5 on their homepage.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point.
It's a choice, okay? It's a choice.
All right, well, time to wrap up. There is a networking reception on the exhibition floor from 5 until 6. And thank you, Colleen, Rob, and Tony, and for the audience for all your questions.